Back to another edition of NASCAR DFS Preview. I'm Austyn with the Sports Chief, and we're heading out to Kentucky Speedway for the Quaker State 400. Now, Kentucky Speedway is a 1.5-mile oval. The banking is like 17 degrees in 1 and 2, 14 in 3 and 4. And if you have watched the Xfinity Series and Truck Series this weekend, you kind of notice that it's almost like I want to say like a progressive banking, so to speak. So from the bottom to the top, it just goes up slightly. It's a different track than what we experience on the circuit. Tires are very important. Track position is very important because it's pretty difficult to pass. They put the PJ1 down to make the grip levels a little better. And to tell you what, I'm kind of, they put that grip stuff at every track, and it's a little much for me. I think they're using it quite a bit, but that's just my personal opinion. I feel like the sport is changing very fast, and basically one thing we're going to look at in terms of making our lineup today is past history, of course. That's one thing, if you followed our segments, that's one thing that I look at very heavily, how the driver performs at this track in other starts. I look at the trucks sometimes, Xfinity and Cup, more Xfinity and Cup because the cars are similar in the fact that Cup really doesn't have as much horsepower as it used to. So, not to say that they're exactly the same, but it's a little more comparable. I believe they're bringing 8 sets of tires for this race, so plenty of Goodyear radials out there for them. 267 laps, so laps led will be key, of course, and as you know, Rowdy Busch is starting on the pole, and he's very good here, so that could be one of my choices. It's track position, again, is very key. That's one thing that I'm looking at for sure. But again, Toyota's pretty dominant here, as some of you may know this. I'm pretty sure, just thinking here, the Toyota, one of the manufacturing areas is in Kentucky, I believe, like in the Ohio-Kentucky line. So Toyota performs here pretty well. They've won 5 out of 9 total Cup races. So that's one thing to look at. But let's go ahead and let's see what DraftKings has to offer for us, see what kind of price ranges they got here. So, as you can tell, Kevin Harvick is the most expensive driver. He's been on a tear lately. He's starting in 3rd, 11.6. Christopher Bell starting in 34th. He's at 11.2. Denny Hamlin starting in 12th. He's at 10.9. Chase Elliott starting in 8th at 10.5. And Kyle Busch starting on the pole at 10.1. So we have 5 drivers in the 10K range, which is pretty normal, pretty standard. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, folks, this was one of the hardest. For some reason, this lineup, creating this lineup here, was one of the hardest things I have done in a very long time. I don't know if the starting positions were just so much different. I know, like, I've been on a little bit of a skid. Even though I'm picking drivers that are winning, I'm not getting those extra points from some of these other guys, and it's very disappointing. So, like, I had Joey Logano last week at Indy, and he didn't look too good. So, we did have Kevin Harvick, though, and that bailed us out. But, Denny Hamlin actually should have won that race. But as you can tell, Christopher Bell has been one of the highest priced guys week in and week out. So if you look at Bell here, 11.5, he was 8.8 there, 11.1, 9.7, 9.3. He's just been crazily priced. And if we were having a normal, quote-unquote, normal season where we have practice, we have qualifying, we have a little bit of data to look at, that's what I love doing, was gathering all that information and then going with it. Here we have nothing other than Xfinity races and things like that, and that's just okay to gauge, but it's not that great. So, Bell should be around 7,000 or 8,000, typically, I would think. But anyway. Kyle Busch is starting on the pole, and one thing about Kyle Busch, Kyle has 8 top 10s and 9 starts. His average finish is 4.7, and he's got 2 wins. So he would be a very good choice for this week. And I am going to pick him. So he is going to be my number one choice. I think he's going to probably win this race. This is probably one of his favorite tracks for sure. He's very good in the Xfinity Series here as well. But 8 top 10s and 9 starts, that's about as consistent as you can get. And I love getting Kyle there at 10-1, where he's not the highest priced driver. He might even be the favorite. I haven't looked at the odds yet, but I would say it's probably him or Harvick. So good pick there, I feel like. Ryan Blaney at 11 is a very intriguing option in the Penske Ford, as well as Joey Logano. And Brad Keselowski is relatively cheap for this week, starting in 6th, and that's not that bad. Brad has actually won here 3 times, and he has 6 top 10s and like 9 starts, and then his average finish is 12.3. Yeah, so about 12. So not a bad option there either. So let's see here. Scrolling on down, as you can tell, I'll cut it off at Brad. Jimmy is back from his, he tested negative, I believe, twice to come back, so he didn't have symptoms or anything, but he's back in the car. William Byron in 21st, Eric Jones in 16th, Tyler Reddick in 24th, Matt Kenseth in 17th. So those are some pretty good options that you can go with. I know Eric Jones is one of the best here as well. He's got 3 top 10s in all 3 of his starts. His average finish is 5.3. Just not a bad option. Also, Matt Kenseth, another thing about him, he's got 6 top 10s in 8 starts. Average finish of 8.4. He also has a win here. Sorry about that. He's got a win here, so I know he took last year off. He didn't run the race here, but he's still not a bad option, for sure. So, Kurt Busch was the last winner here. Bowman is not that great here. Almirola's got 5 straight top 10s this season, so he is on a roll, and I wouldn't shy away from him for sure. Let's see here, Ricky. All right, so cutting it off right here, I'll cut it off at John Hunter Nemechek. So Nemechek is the last driver I would consider. I wouldn't consider the guys below him for sure. So anyway, one thing that I noticed about looking at these lineups here was that Cole Custer was a pretty intriguing option at 29th. So he has a win here, 3 top 5s in the Xfinity Series. He's not that bad of a choice. Okay. Austyn Dillon is really good in the Xfinity Series. He's won twice. Every race he started in, I think he's finished in the top 6. The Cup Series, he doesn't have that statistic. His Cup average finish is actually 22nd, which is pretty rough. And I don't know, I guess he's probably wrecked in them. He didn't wreck out, so he didn't have a DNQ. So that's something to look to as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and make my, and Ryan Newman starting in a pretty intriguing spot at 23rd. Ryan Preece and Daniel Suarez, they'd be okay. I don't know if Suarez will perform that well. Preece might do okay. Chris Buescher starting in 13th. He's a little high for me. Michael McDowell in 30th. It's pretty good considering he's had 2 top 10s of the last 3 starts too. After manipulating like so many options, I just went ahead and after a little bit of time, because I had Ryan Blaney in one, I had Boyer in one, I had Keselowski in some, I had Kenseth in quite a bit. What I just went ahead and did, and I was just like, you know what? I've got Kyle Busch. He's starting in first. Now, when you pick Kyle Busch for this race, you pretty much have to think that he's going to win the race. And I do. He's my pick. So from that point on, not to say that you cannot do this, but you really don't want to pick anyone starting inside the top 10 because of position. So the expected value for Kyle Busch, at that price point, he could probably even finish 3rd or 4th as long as he leads like 100 laps. It'll probably be very worth it. But Christopher Bell's a guy who I think could actually get a top 15 easily. I say easily. Christopher Bell has got 2 starts in the Xfinity Series here. He's won once, and he's got 2 top 5s. He's pretty dominant at this track. Different car, different team. Even though he was running Joe Gibbs stuff, he's got Joe Gibbs stuff at Levine. I do think he'll get a top 20, and I'm banking on him getting a top 10 for sure, going with that pick. Now, another thing that I did here was, and this is the guy that I didn't know whether I should go with him, but I'm going with Eric Jones. I feel like Eric Jones will be chalky because people know Eric Jones is good here. Kyle Busch will probably be chalky. Christopher Bell, I don't know. I don't think he'll be that chalky, just for the simple fact that most people will probably be going Kyle Busch. And they may be going like Ryan Blaney and Brad Keselowski, because those guys are pretty cheap, and Penske looked bad fast. Cindric won both Xfinity races, so that's not a bad option. But I'm going with Eric Jones. I'm going with my gut. He was good in the Xfinity Series here as well. I think that he'll get a top 10. And I like those three drivers to get a top 10. Now, you're looking at that average remaining salary, and it doesn't look too hot. It's at $6,700. But I've got a plan here. And that plan involves John Hunter Nemechek in 22nd. Now, I think John Hunter Nemechek, in order for this to be a great pick, he'll have to finish at least top 20. And that's what I'm looking for. Nemechek is decent at this track. His history, he's got a 9.5 average finish. So, about 10th in the Xfinity Series. They've been performing pretty well. They've been getting top 20s. So I look for him to have a top 20 finish here as well at 7,500. Now, this is the one I really battled with. So, should I go Cole Custer? Cole's won here. He won the Xfinity Series race here last year. Should I go him and have $8,100 to spend and pick Matt Kenseth? That looks like a great lineup. Matt Kenseth, was pretty close at Indy. He's been finishing well here, and he's got the track record to prove it here as well. The one thing I had to mull over was, when I picked Cole Custer in 29th, realistically, I think he'll get a top 18. So he'll finish, to me, 17th or 18th. That's 12 spots, right? Michael McDowell, on the other hand, starting in 30th, he can get a top 10. I think he could get a top 20. And he's got that one spot. So we're realistically 18th or 19th, somewhere in that range, like Cole Custer. So Ryan Newman is a decent choice, 15th or so. Austyn Dillon, I think, could get 15th or so. Ty Dillon, probably 25th, 20th. But I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm going with Michael McDowell. I'm going to ride the wave. I think he's performing at a top level, and that gives me $9,300. Whereas if I had Custer, I had 8. So $9,300 gives me the option to get Martin Truex or Brad Keselowski. Now, I just said that if you pick Kyle Busch, you don't want to pick anybody in the top 10. Well, Martin's really close. He's in 9th. He's got 2 wins here, 11th average finish. He's been dominant in the Toyotas. Didn't have the greatest finish last year in the 19 car, but the 78 car, he was untouchable at this track. I'm going with Martin Truex. So that is my lineup, folks. I'm going with a lot of Toyotas and Sioux Fords and Front Row Motorsports camp. I hope they bail me out. So, and if you're doing a cash game strategy, to me, I think you don't go Kyle Busch. You probably have to go like if you went Brad Keselowski, because he's such a good driver here, and then Matt Kenseth, and I think you have to go Cole Custer. I probably wouldn't go any lower than Cole there. You probably want to go Eric Jones too, and maybe Clint Boyer and Tyler Reddick, or you could go Ryan Blaney and DiBenedetto or Kurt Busch. So I don't know. This week was so tough, guys. It was unreal. But here's my lineup. So Christopher Bell at 34th. Banking on a top 10. My highest priced driver. Kyle Busch, the winner. I think he'll lead most of the laps. Track position will be very key. Martin Truex Jr. Starting in 9th. Now, I do feel like this is a tournament lineup for sure. Because I don't know that Truex will be that heavily owned. I don't know that Bell will be that heavily owned. Eric Jones will be heavily owned, and so will Kyle Busch. And I think that Michael McDowell will as well. But I don't think John Hunter Nemechek will. So I'm hoping that is a good range there. Anyway, that's it. That's what we're going with. Tough week, folks. Tough week. I think Toyota has been very good here. Ford looked really good in the Xfinity races. But to me, the Xfinity Toyotas are not a good gauge of how they'll perform in the Cup Series. Because the top Toyota drivers are already there. And anyway, so that's what we got. If you like the content that we had here on the Sports Chief, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Go check us out on www.thesportschief.com. Also on Twitter at thesportschief. I try to do a little bit of an article. It's a really short one, just basically prefacing the video that we're doing here. And then, check out our wrestling content. We have a lot of entertainment stuff, song of the day. Check that out, folks. So, hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helped you make your lineup. Again, track position, laps led, and pitch strategy will be a little important. We got 267 laps, so we'll see. They got enough tires. So, anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and have a good rest of your weekend.